Okay, and we should be live, so we can go ahead and get started. Okay, let's see. First up is the approval of the minutes of November 3rd. Hold on.
I move that we approve the minutes of November 3rd as written.
I second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bruce Hyder will not be with us this evening, so this is it as far as the commission goes. So that is Patricia and then Sarah, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mike and Laura?
Yes.
I'm assuming that you approve?
Yes,
Okay.
I approve, yes.
Okay. Laura, if you can unmute.
I'm sorry, what, Mary?
I'm asking Laura Stearns if she can unmute. She doesn't, I don't see video, but I believe that she should have audio capability. Okay. Okay, next up. And for those of you joining us this evening, we apologize. This is the first time that the Parks Commission has had the pleasure of doing a Zoom meeting. So we're all kind of new at this. First thing on the agenda is the donation and memorial program, which was part of your packet. And I had sent you an email this afternoon regarding some recent communications I had had with Mayor Tyndall regarding the draft program. And in the conversation that he and I had, he now is on board with what we are talking about. And there was a little bit of misunderstanding, but it's all cleared up at this point. So I think unless you have any additional changes to make, the draft packet, as I sent it to you, is now ready to go before the mayor and council for approval. However, at this point, because we are coming into budget season and there's just a number of much bigger topics on the mayor and council's agenda, I think I will hold off probably until after the start of the fiscal year to take that to them. So unless any of you have any questions or comments about the program as it has been presented, we'll basically move on from that.
Do you need an approval?
Well, yeah.
I move that we approve the I move that we approve the donation memorial program draft as it was set forward and to be presented to the town council and mayor at a future time.
Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Sarah? And Mike and Laura. Laura, again, you're currently muted. If you can unmute, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm going to have to assume that silence implies consent. I mean, we still have a majority with Mike, Patricia, and Sarah, so we're okay as that goes. And Mike, I'm assuming that you're approving. Mike.
Oh, you just have to unmute. Mike needs to unmute.
Well, that's not Mike. There you go. You're good. You're unmuted.
Okay, I have to switch device.
Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and move on to the Worcester Recreation Spring Tennis Program. Somebody needs.
Like you got too much.
Okay, hold on.
Say, can you hear me?
I can hear it. I'm
I
having
can hear
trouble
it. I'm having trouble with,
with the device, but I think we got it now. It cut out a couple times.
That's better. Yeah, the echo has dropped, so that's much better. Okay, so with us from Worcester Recreation and Parks is Kelly Buchanan. Kelly, if you want to present your request for the spring tennis program. And again, this was also in the packet that you were sent.
Okay, thank you for having us. We're proposing, we have ran some tennis clinics with a tennis professional, Buzz Truitt, and he comes out to the Stephen Decatur courts. And we are proposing to run these tennis clinics on Tuesday, May 11th and May 18th this year from 6 to 7 on the courts. We do charge $3 a participant, but we do pay our instructor $150. So you lose money on the program, but we're just trying to have the participants pay a little to help cover the cost for that. And our goal is just to get people out in the spring, go over some tennis skills and go through the fundamentals and hopefully encourage people to come out to the tennis courts.
So this will basically work as it has in the past, I'm assuming.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
We might not do the drop-in, Mary. We continued
Right.
sometimes with that drop-in. I'm not sure we're going to try that this year because we've only been getting, honestly, the same 2 people. But
Right.
we're not offering the drop-in, but I did want to offer these clinics. Last spring, we had over 18 to 20 people out each
Wow.
night for these clinics from high school till 70 years old. So we had all different ages too. It was very successful.
Okay, great. So the way that this will work, just to refresh everyone's memory, provided that the Parks Commission approves the request, it will go before the mayor and council on Monday evening for their formal approval. So if we could get a motion on this.
So moved.
Yeah. Now you got to come out and play.
I second it.
Thank you. And Sarah
I'm in favor.
and Laura. Let's see. Laura, I'm going to send you a request to unmute. See if that enables you any.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, there
Okay,
you
I was on
are.
my
Okay,
work
great.
computer. I had to switch to my Mac, sorry.
That's fine. Okay, I'm assuming that you're okay with the votes that have
Yes.
been taken thus far. Okay, I just wanted to be sure. Okay, well, thank you, Kelly. And again, this will go before the mayor and council on Monday. I expect it to be as quick as this, but you will get a link to join that meeting. Just like
Okay.
for tonight.
Okay.
Both you and Myro actually will get that link. That way, whichever one of you is available.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you. Is it
All right.
rude if I leave the meeting at this
It's
point?
not.
Okay, I didn't want to look rude. Thank you for having me, guys, and I look forward to seeing somebody on the town council on Monday.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, next up is, sorry, I'm not advancing my slides. Oh, well, I guess this is the first one. Next up is Tony Weig, who has a request or a presentation for a plan for John Howard Burbidge Park. So I will introduce Mr. Weig, who I'm sure that you all are familiar with.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to give you at least one more reason to meet this month. What you have before you is what I have come up with for that park, to have ping pong tables that will be outdoor, all-weather ping pong tables built on top of concrete pads, potentially permeable concrete pads so that the water will go through them rather than pooling on them. The tables will hopefully be made locally with either aluminum or steel. I envision a white picket fence as well as a boxwood hedge of some sort, all very sort of low, just to keep balls and people from rushing out into the street. And then there's already some seating there, but I'm not so sure that the mayor and council wouldn't be up for some new seating that was there to replace the sort of weathered seating that already exists. And I've also spoken with the mayor and council about some things, and Zach had mentioned, or the mayor had mentioned some parking where the old recycling bins had been. And Troy and I worked heavily on sort of making sure this was safe with the fence and the bushes. And I've taken this, and everybody on the council has heard my spiel on this. A lot of them are in favor of this. The nonprofit that I've started, We Heart Berlin, has already started collecting donations for this. And we're at like $1,300 of donations towards this. I'm on the precipice of filing for nonprofit status with the IRS. The board we had our first meeting last night to establish how we'll spend money. But one of those things we know we're spending money on is this park. And we are looking to the council and the Parks Commission to help us sort of reserve this space at the park, help us make sure this plan works out for the town. And then once we have sort of our nonprofit status, we'll be able to sort of increase the level of donorship that we'll get, because we'll be able to use that money for write-offs, tax, a charitable donation. And that's about all I have on it. If you guys have any questions, I'd love to help answer any I can give you.
Hey, Tony, this is Jeff Fleetwood. What's your anticipated total cost for this project?
So there's a couple unknowns with the fence and the parking lot. So that's sort of a wild card in my head. I haven't gotten to that point yet, just because I've been scurrying around getting the nonprofit together. But what, at a bare bones minimum, if we just did concrete pads and we did tables, you're at sub $15,000 for the entirety of the system.
And then should this be approved and should it happen, the ongoing maintenance on this, is this something that you're looking to turn over to the town, or is this something that the nonprofit's going to take care of?
So that's a great question. I would love for most of this to be, what we're changing there to not sort of need much maintenance. And that's the purpose of the things we're putting there. And whatever already happens there would be grass cutting, and that grass cutting would happen either way. But the nonprofit is part of our mission statement is improving the parks in the town. So that could certainly fall under improvement, some cleaning. But whether we're going to cut the grass there or not, I'm not sure. But we're definitely going to take care of the place.
And I would assume this is a bring your own paddle setup.
Yeah, certainly, just like a tennis court. At a tennis court, people bring their own rackets and balls, and this is just the same. We're essentially providing the apparatus to play on.
Just to give you kind of an idea of how something like this would progress, the Parks Commission itself makes recommendation to the mayor and council. Parks Commission cannot enter into contracts, that doesn't have a budget to work with. It makes their recommendation to the mayor and council, who obviously control the purse strings. What I would suggest, being the very first thing we do, which is free, is have Miss Utility go out and take a look for utilities. At this point in time, I have no idea what might or might not be under that ground, but obviously the presence of existing utilities would greatly impact what ends up happening. So that's going to be what I suggest we do first, because that can answer a lot of questions about feasibility going forward.
Yes.
And then beyond that, it would be a matter of taking the proposal to the mayor and council, seeing if it is something that they want to pursue. And it's obviously part of the bigger picture of the overall parks in the town. And whether or not we pursue grant funding or how that goes. At some point, if it gets to that point, we would need to.
Grant funding, that's for sure.
Sorry?
I don't want to wait for grant funding, that's for sure.
Okay, well, I mean, that the grant funding, the particular grants that the town has available to them are a long, drawn out process. It takes
No, we're not going
a
to wait.
while.
We're going to plow forward.
We would also need at some point to have a professional engineer come in and examine it, make sure that the ground can take it, that sort of thing. These are the sort of due diligence things that the town has to do from their perspective.
And I also understand that we have to establish an MOU so that money can pass forward back and forth between the town and the nonprofit for this.
That is correct. I do not know exactly what that process is, but our town attorney obviously would be helpful in that.
Yes.
So what I'm going to suggest at this point is that first we move forward with having this utility out there.
Cool.
As I said, that costs us nothing, but everything else will either proceed from that or stop in its tracks, depending
Excellent.
on what we find out there.
And Mary,
Yes,
Mary, if I may, real quick, the one thing that I think of, and I don't know what I'm saying for fact, but it's just an assumption with the power plant adjacent to that piece of property. And this is a question Miss Utility can answer, and I'm sure Tim Lawrence can as well.
right.
And I'm making a wild but assumption when I say this. If for some reason from that power plant or going into that power plant, there is for a lack of better terms, a major supply line for power
Mhm.
and or a natural gas line, I can see where things are going to need to be tweaked where it's
Yeah.
not dress right dress, you know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. The comparative cost of trying to relocate those kinds of utilities would just make it would not be at all feasible. So,
Correct.
so yeah, that's the first thing that we need to do is determine the utilities.
And I would also say as a sub note to all of this does not have to happen at the Burbage Park. It could happen at Heron Park. It could happen at Decatur. This could be insert any park in Berlin. This Burbage Park, I know, is a park that the mayor would like to have something done with.
Mhm.
And this is sort of a low-hanging fruit sort of project that we can make happen and not, have to go too wild with donorship.
Sure.
So hopefully the ground geotech survey works out and all that stuff works out, because
Right.
we're not going to move trunk lines. That would, that wouldn't, that's out of the budget.
Right, right.
Excuse me,
Along the
Tony.
lines of what the mayor, when I spoke to him this afternoon, he also plans to speak to Jack Burbage, who is John Howard Burbage's son, just to get a sense of how the family, feels about the area as well. So that's part of it too.
Tony,
Yes.
what is the full name of your nonprofit?
We Heart
This is
Berlin.
Patricia Dufignon.
Hello, Patricia. How are you?
I'm sorry. I'm fine.
It's We Heart Berlin Incorporated.
Okay. I did. So is it spelled out HEART
Yes, ma'am.
or just, okay. Oh,
I-
ma'am,
I
I got a
was-
ma'am. Oh my gosh.
I was going to try to use an emoji, but I didn't really want to try with the IRS, so I just kept it.
No, you have to, I just, We Heart Berlin, and it's LLC or ORG.
Incorporated. It's a nonprofit incorporation in the state of Maryland.
Okay.
I have an
Okay.
EIN.
I just wanted to know, when I see it, I'll know who you are. I see you have your sign behind you, and I get that, but I just wanted to be sure who you actually, the entity that you are.
That's me.
And remind you that stormwater management is exceedingly important in any project that you do. So when you talk about concrete, I start to get a little nervous, as Mary knows. So that is something that, as you move forward, that's just something that you always need to keep in mind. So, well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Permeable concrete would make a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, but yeah, that's definitely a good idea.
Also, we have spoken with a lady from either Asty Coastal Trust or another organization around here that's going to work with us on, she said, would love to help us put things that eat water really well around the park.
Like rain garden type stuff.
Yeah, I'm not going to say rain garden because that's
Yeah,
a dream, but yes, things that eat water to make it look better and eat
okay,
water.
sounds good. Okay, so what I'll say then is that we'll get to work on having this utility take a look,
Awesome.
and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Okay, were there any other questions? Okay, well, it sounds like that wraps up this agenda item then. And thank you very much, Tony, for joining us and sending over your plans.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tony.
Take care. Great to meet you guys.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I neglected to introduce, sitting there behind Jeff or to the side of Jeff, is our oncoming Public Works Superintendent. Dave Wheaton will be retiring at the end of March. And Jimmy Charles will be taking his place. So he joins us this evening.
Hello.
And
Hello, nice to meet everyone.
Nice to meet you.
okay, the next item on the agenda is 2021 events. There basically at this point really aren't any. Because of the ongoing pandemic, it makes it very difficult to try to plan things out. The Chamber of Commerce, for instance, will not be holding its traditional spring celebration event as they have done in the past. So we will not be doing a craft that day. We can possibly, we had actually ordered crafts last spring. And I'm just coming up with this right now off the top of my head. So if Ivy's out there listening, forgive me. But I know that the Welcome Center for Valentine's Day provided a free craft to the kids. Maybe they would want to do something like that, and we could just use up what we've ordered in the past. I'll talk to Ivy about that. So it wouldn't involve any work on our part, really. It would just be having them available. So I will discuss that with her. The other thing that we have normally, obviously, coming up in April is Take Pride in Berlin Week and Cleanup Day. Again, this year, we had to cancel last year at the start of the pandemic. This year, I'm going to say that we have to cancel again. For just because we just don't know. We can't plan an event. We can't pull the organizations together to help us work on it without knowing what the situation is going to be in April. So unfortunately, we're going to have to put that on hold as well. So that was about it as far as the 2021 events go. National Night Out would be the only other one. That's in August. Hopefully, things will be back to normal by then, but you know, we'll have to play it by ear and see what happens. And now we are on to the Berlin Youth Program update. And joining us is Jennifer Lagour from, and I'm sorry, Jennifer, please correct me if I've mispronounced your last name.
No, you're fine.
Okay, thank you. And there, she will talk to us about the activities of the Berlin Youth Club over 2020.
Yes, obviously 2020 has been a challenging year for all of us. And I had spoken to Jeff. Hi, Jeff, how are you? At one point, and I had spoken to G. Williams at the time about what we could realistically accomplish this past summer. And we were able to create a virtual summer camp for the first time. And while it was a challenge and it was different, we were pleased at the participation that we did have. Basically, by virtual camp, what we did was have an 8-week summer camp. Each week had a different theme that was really fun for the kids, whether it was a scavenger hunt or a fitness week. And on Mondays, we dropped supplies off and snacks off to all of the kids and families. And Tuesday through Friday, the camp was initiated. The children could log on to our YouTube channel and get a tutorial and see what the activity was for the day, whether it was a craft or an exercise. And then every afternoon, all of the children and their families met with us on Google Meet for some socialization, to share how they did with the activity and the project, and just have some time, even though it was virtual, to feel like you were connecting with someone. So we had 16 children sign up, but what we found was that their siblings, their cousins, their caregivers, everyone in the home and everyone who was involved participated. So we're guessing that we probably served 60 plus people in the community, which
Wow.
was really wonderful. The other thing we really liked about it is that caregivers were very, very involved and willing to help the children and do the projects with them and get creative. And so there was a lot of really nice family involvement. So it was a success. It was a trial, and we were happy to have the recruitment. And if need be, we can follow the same format this summer. Again, just like everyone else, we're kind of waiting to see what is happening with COVID and the restrictions. So that's how the camp went this summer.
Great. Did anybody have any questions or comments about the youth club? There are a couple other items that Jennifer can speak to when we move on.
I just want to thank them and for their creativity and ingenuity and reaching the families here in Worcester County. I mean, it's so urgent and such a needed thing. I really admire your ability to adapt in a new situation. So thank you very much for doing that.
You're welcome. It was actually fun. We had to embrace it as a fun challenge.
Yeah, get creative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll move on to a couple of other activities that the youth program participated in 2020.
Yep, we dovetailed at the end of the camp, then moved us into the school year where we were able to safely distribute school supplies to our camp participants, but then also to hundreds of students at Buckingham Elementary. We gathered, 60 backpacks with supplies for our participants, and then probably around 200 backpacks were dropped off at Buckingham, partnering with the Berlin Police Department. And then anything extra was donated to Buckingham. And then we had extra backpacks that we also gave to Diakonia. So that was a good event. Got lots of supplies out, even though kids were doing remote learning. Then moving forward, obviously the town couldn't have the events they wanted to have. So many people were still restricted, but we were able to participate in Trunk or Treat in Ocean Pines, which was a lot of fun. We decked out the van, gave out hundreds and hundreds of pieces of candy. But children from Berlin, Ocean City, Ocean Pines, everywhere were out with their families just to feel a little sense of normal and to distance and to have some fun with Halloween. So there were a lot of people. I would do that event again. There were a lot of kids and they had a lot of fun. Moving on, we also were able to participate in Ice Ice Berlin. Not only did we get a really beautiful ice sculpture, I mean, he does an amazing job, Eric. We also handed out 324 cups of hot chocolate. And we did 218 take-home craft bags so that kids in the town could grab some crafts and take them home and do them with their families over the holidays. Dovetailing into December, we realized that families were still stuck at home, essentially. There were a lot of travel restrictions. So we developed family game night bags for all of our youth club participants and were able to hand those out. We had a lot of different things in the bags, traditional games like bingo and chess and checkers and backgammon, to some non-traditional games like headbands and meme games, gingerbread house kits, different fun snacks. And so we created about 30 bags for all of our program participants. And they were really excited about that.
Great. Okay, and then the other thing that you had included was your youth club summer camp information. There weren't any pictures with that, so I don't have anything to put up on the screen, but if you want to talk about that.
There was the youth club summer camp outline, just to show everyone exactly what we did every week. I don't know that I need to go through it exactly, but I can tell you that some of the things that we did were team building, scavenger hunt, art week, fitness challenge, game week, no bake treats week, kindness challenge, and then a wrap up about what was your favorite activity and what did you learn this summer. So that was just more of an outline to show you exactly how we structured it. And we are just now getting recruitment and trying to launch our teen groups for 7th and 8th graders. We do have enough girls for the go ahead. The boys group, we only have about 2 participants at this point. We need at least 5 to start the group, but we're hoping to start that in a virtual format and then move forward to in person if we're ever able to do that. So that's the only other thing that we're working on. And we want to make it as interesting as possible if we have to go virtual. One of the plans that we have is to include Adriano Bubba Almany as one of our presenters and talk about bullying. He's the ambassador for Bodyguards Against Bullying, and try to have some creative projects too, where we can do some drop-offs with supplies and have the children do the projects and things together and talk about them when they meet for groups. So that's in the works this month.
Great. Okay, did anyone have any questions or comments for Jennifer? Okay, moving right along. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us
Thank
that
you.
update. Hopefully we'll be meeting again in May, and we'll reach out to you again for another update.
That sounds great.
All right,
Thank you for
good.
having me.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Nice to meet you virtually.
All right. Okay, on to the last bit. I had a couple of items. I believe today, I was not able to get out there and check, but I believe that there was a cleanup effort in Henry Park today. A group of volunteers were scheduled to be out there. Seagull,
Mary?
yes,
That changed slightly.
okay.
The group is called Restore the Shore. And
Well, is that the same thing, Jeff?
I think it is, because Andy Blizzard is the contact. He actually called me today and said that they did not get out there
Okay.
today. However, he did say that they wanted to drop a dumpster Friday afternoon I told him to put it on the east side of the parking lot. Then Saturday morning, he's guesstimating between the hours of 9 and 12 that he and his crews will be on site. They're going to pick up any trash they can find in Henry Park, and then also any and all ditches as they connect with Flower Street.
Well, that's great, especially since we're not going to be able to do our cleanup day this year, which the ditch clean out is always a big part of that. So that's really terrific that they're going to be able to do that. So that'll be Saturday,
Yes,
and it's a volunteer thing, basically.
volunteer. I asked if he needed any media input, press releases. He said he preferred not to have that.
Okay,
He said, we like to do what we do. And he said, that's all we need. I just need permission for the dumpster. The dumpster itself is coming from Seagull. They were gracious enough to actually donate the dumpster. So it's going to be a 10-yard dumpster, so not a big one.
oh, okay, good. So if anyone sees that activity going on this Saturday, you'll know what that's about. Then the only other thing I had was that I received an email just this afternoon from the health department. You may recall in the fall, I believe, they did a self-guided scavenger hunt in several parks in Worcester County. They're doing that again in the spring. You know, normally we would have our Just Walk event in April or May. I'm sorry, the first weekend of May. And again, we're not going to plan to do that this year. Instead, they are doing these self-guided scavenger hunts. You can get the list. They're going to be putting out more information, but you can get the list via the health department website and submit your finds. And that is going to be April 5th through 11th. So there will be more information about that later, but it's all part of the Just Walk event. Everybody has gotten very creative this year with doing what they can with their events, despite not being able to do them in person, which is really, it's really been a great thing. So that was really all that I had. Did anyone else have anything? Mike?
Last week, at the request of Jeff Fleetwood, I took the new Public Works Director on a tour of all 4 parks, and he carried a clipboard and a pad, and he made a lot of notations on a lot of minor things, such as we found a couple pipes barely sticking up, trip hazards, things like that. And he made an extensive list and went through each park, took him around. We went over to the pond area at Decatur Park and the main park, explained to him about the history of the trail, the walking trail, and felt it was very worthwhile, to be able to explain to him what we can do and can't do, etc. And he had a couple questions for us, but it worked out really good. And Sarah, you'll be glad to know. I'm sorry, Patricia, you'll be glad to know. I mentioned to him about our theories on keeping taller brush near the edges of the ponds over at the Heron Park. So he understood that, why we want to do that. So, but I felt it was a very worthwhile 2 hours or so that we spent together.
Good.
Thank you for doing that, Mike, and thank you for, the stormwater management is what it's all about with our
Yeah.
park.
Yep.
Yeah, and that is something in recent weeks and months, you all, I'm sure, have heard a lot of the same stuff that everybody else has, with thoughts of where to put different kinds of amenities. And what people often forget or don't even realize is that Stephen Decatur Park is actually an integral part of the town's drainage system. So people see an empty field and they think we can just put something there. And unfortunately, that is probably not the case, because those empty fields are often very important to managing stormwater. So it's definitely something that needs to be kept in mind. Yeah, there's a reason that people donate big pieces of land to be parks. It's because it's not viable land for farms or houses. And often the reason for that is that it's lowland that holds water. And Stephen Decatur Park is very definitely in that category. So, did anyone else have anything? Well, before we go, I will give Jimmy a chance to introduce himself a little bit more and just see if there's anything that he wants to add. Put you right on the spot.
Thank you. Yes, Mike and I, Jimmy Charles, incoming superintendent of Public Works. I'm very excited to get to work with the Park Commission, and Mike and I did take a walk, and we pointed out some of trip hazards and safety issues. We went back up there and enclosed that catch basin, Mike, that remember how we saw it was open about a foot. So it was my understanding. And then we actually had discussion this morning about maybe removing it and filling it in with, we're checking the bottom to see if it actually has a solid base that we could fill it in, and then actually fill it in with some dirt and then put some stone over top to be just like what's there now. So we're working on that issues. And then I still have the list that we created, and there was no huge safety issues. There was just minor things that we can get to once it dries up. We're still waiting on everything's so wet and can't get in there with any equipment or trucks or anything. So
right.
Hopefully we'll get some dry weather here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Well, unless anyone else has anything, that will pretty much wrap us up. Our next meeting would be scheduled for May 4th. It's hard to say at this point if we'll really have anything on the agenda. The mayor and council has a lot of discussion and decisions ahead of them as to what they envision as some of the larger priorities for the town parks, and whether they want to pursue funding for those, budget funding to do stuff. There's a lot ahead that the mayor and council really has on their plate. Obviously, that will definitely be seeking the input of the Parks Commission, but at the end of the day, it as so many things do, comes down to money, and that's the subject that they have to deal with. So,
Mary, I have one more quick thing I forgot to add. I reached out today, the 2 new council persons. I've never met them, and with everything going on, the COVID and all. So I sent an email to both of them and introduced myself and told them if they, I'd like to get together with them at some point and give them a little bit of a tour of the parks. So
okay, sounds good.
hoping to reach out to them and bring them up to date about what we do and don't do and want and don't want.
And I assume that you're talking about Shanika Nichols and Jay Nuras. I know that you've
Right.
known Jack for years, obviously.
Oh, yeah, I know Jack, and of course, Troy built our house. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, if no one else has anything, why don't we get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Night. Thank you, Mayor.
Right.
Good night.
Thanks, Mary.